Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. This is the fifth video in the series of molecular bases of cancer, and in this video we will discuss tumor suppressor genes. These are the references for this video. The tumor suppressors are a very large and diverse group of cellular functions that are carried out via many different pathways and mediators. A single molecule may perform multiple functions, and multiple molecules may be destined to do a single function. The tumor suppressors are organized against all cancer attributes such as immortalization and evading programmed cell death, and also they are against companion tumor characteristics such as genomic instability and altered metabolism. So these are programmed to counteract these tumor attributes and illustrate how some processes counteract those attributes. There are variations in the theme of tumor suppression. Some tumor suppressors inhibit development and spread of some type of the tumor, while some tumor suppressors act as suppressor in some circumstances but act as oncogene in other. An example of this is Wnt. Then there are some tumor suppressors, they execute their duties under some special circumstances, but not always they act as tumor suppressor. In some conditions, some mutated tumor suppressors, they not only fail to do their function, that is the inhibition of the tumor development, but they also gang up and facilitate tumor progression by inactivating other tumor suppressors. There are many protective mechanisms in this cell that are responsible for the protection of the tumor development, and the molecular guardians of this protection are termed as tumor suppressors, and the genes that encode them are tumor suppressor genes. Inactivation of one of these genes it results in development of the tumor. These tumor suppressor genes may have got various function and mechanism of action. Some have got multiple function and targets. Some tumor suppressors are not proteins but are untranslated RNA species. Some are part-time suppressors and part-time oncogenes. The tumor suppressor genes' role in the cellular homeostasis is important, because when oncogenes they start proliferation of the cell, this cell proliferation may get uncontrollable. So there are checkpoints that prevent uncontrolled growth, such as activation of RB and P53. The cellular homeostasis is maintained by pushing the cells toward oncogene-induced senescence, and this occurs in the presence of intact tumor suppressor gene to maintain the cellular homeostasis. When there is activation of growth inhibitory pathways, that will lead to apoptosis of that cell. As there are a certain number of the cells in the tissue or organ, there is constant birth of new cell and death of the old cell or death of the unwanted cells. So another set of tumor suppressor gene is responsible for post-mitotic push toward the differentiated pole without replicative activity. So here the cells are there and they are differentiated to a certain type of cell lineage, and they have got no replicative potential. The products of tumor suppressor gene may function as either transcription factor, signal transduction molecule. They may function as cell surface receptor or regulator of the cellular response to DNA damage. Diverse mechanisms are responsible in compromising the effectiveness of the tumor suppressor. These mechanisms are loss of heterozygosity, spontaneous mutation, dominant negative mutations, fragile site translocation, altered level or activities of tumor suppressor protein, functional blockade by other related proteins, and epigenetic changes that alter tumor suppressor expression or function. The defect in the tumor suppression can be congenital or they can be acquired. Congenital means they can be inherited or they can be acquired. The inherited causes defects are rare, while the acquired defects in these tumor suppressors are common. So the tumor suppressors are present for almost every hallmark of the cancer, and some of the tumor suppressor have got exclusive functions such as BEX, that is involved in the apoptosis, and some of the tumor suppressors are multidimensional and they have got multiple functions such as P53, ATR, and SERT3. So this is summarizing that there is some sort of tumor suppressor that is present for almost every type of characteristics or hallmarks of the tumor or cancer, that are immortalization, invasion, metastasis, angiogenesis, avoidance of cellular senescence, altered metabolism, genomic instability, unrestricted cellular proliferation, and evading apoptosis.
As we have seen in earlier videos, the receptor ligand binding will result in intracellular signaling that will activate multiple pathways, and one of this is the activation of phosphatidylinositol 3 kinase that convert or phosphorylate the phosphatidylinositol 4,5 bisphosphate into phosphatidylinositol 3,4,5 triphosphate or PIP3. That will further lead to activation of AKT and mTOR pathway, and this then will lead to the division of the cell. There is a protein that dephosphorylates this PIP3 or phosphatidylinositol 3,4,5 triphosphate, and this dephosphorylation deactivates the cellular division or proliferative pathway. This PTEN is phosphatase and tensin homologue, and it is second only in the frequency following in the frequency of the tumor suppressor function loss. This is the diagrammatic representation of the statement we just made, that the growth factor binds with its receptor on the cell membrane, and immediately there is association of the adaptor protein with the cytosolic end or domain of the receptor, and this will further activate many signaling pathway that will lead to the transcriptional factor activities and the production of cell cycle proteins and production of inhibitors of apoptosis. The key targets are RAS, mitogen activated protein or MAP kinase, signal transducers and activator transcription factors that are termed as STATs, and phosphatidylinositol 3 kinase PI3 kinase and the serine threonine kinase AKT. This picture is showing the signaling function of PTEN or phosphatase and tensin homologue, and here you can see that growth factor is binding with its receptor, and there is activation of the PI3 or phosphatidylinosytol 3 kinase. As a result of this binding and activation of tyrosine kinase, so this PI3 kinase will phosphorylate the PIP2 into PIP3, and PIP3 is responsible for signaling pathway, and then the AKT and mTOR signaling and the cell division, while the P10 is the brake in the system. P10 dephosphorylate this PIP3 and stops the signaling pathway. The receptor ligand interaction will result in downstream signaling, and it will result in cell cycle transition and activation and inactivation of gene transcription. The tumor suppressors, they target both these mechanisms, and they stop the activity of the cell or the proliferative activity of the cell. The RB protein is bound with the E2F factor, that is a transcription factor, and when it is bound with this E2F factor, it is an inactive form. The conversion of the RB protein into active form, that is the hyperphosphorylated form, is completed by the action of the cyclins. The cyclin dependent kinases 2, 4, 6 complex with various cyclins are responsible for this conversion of RB into hyperphosphorylated RB, and when it is hyperphosphorylated, it will release the E2F factor, and this E2F factor, that is a growth factor, then it will be responsible for various proliferative activity. The cyclin dependent kinases are inhibited by the tumor suppressors such as P21 and P16. This RB, which was hyperphosphorylated, can again be dephosphorylated, and it can bind again, or in hypophosphorylated form, it can bind again with the E2F factor.
The tumor suppressors are involved in regulation of the cellular proliferation. Transforming growth factor beta signaling pathway is the most potent endogenous mechanism that inhibits cell division. This transforming growth factor beta binds with its receptor, and it activates the intermediates that are SMADs, and SMAD4 is the key effector of transforming growth factor beta induced transcriptional activity. This SMAD4, they block the c-MYC protein, and hence they inhibit cell cycle transit. Also, they increase the expression of P15, 16 and 21 that blocks the cell division. So this is involved in E2F mediated transcriptional activity of MYC that is inhibited by transforming growth factor beta. This transforming growth factor beta activates molecules that impede translation of messenger RNA for protein that drive cell cycle progression. The tumor suppressor FBW7 is a part of ubiquitin ligase complex that eliminate many protein that drive cell division, such as MYC, cyclin E and GEN. This diagram is showing the activity of the transforming growth factor beta as a tumor suppressor. This transforming growth factor beta binds to its heterotrimeric receptor, and it phosphorylates SMAD2 and 3, and SMAD2 and 3, which have been phosphorylated, they bind with SMAD4, and hence they form an activated SMAD complex, and this SMAD complex then go into the nucleus and activates the transcription process. First, it blocks the
c-Myc, while it activates the cell cycle inhibitors such as p15, 16 and 21. When a cell tries to become a mutinous cell, there is a safety valve of activation of programmed cell death that destroy this rebellion. So when there is DNA damage, oncogenic activation of other protein and other stresses on the cell, such as hypoxia, there is increased concentration of the p53 protein within the cell. This p53 serves as a transcription factor, and also it is the principal mediator of growth arrest, senescence and apoptosis. This DNA mismatch may occur in the resting state and in the dividing state and is detected by separate mechanisms for each state. When it occurs in the resting state, it is detected by ATM, ataxia telangiectasia mutant, and in the dividing state it is detected by ATR, and there is activation of check2 and check1 respectively for the repair. The p53 normally occurs in association with MDM2, that is mouse double minute homologue, and this MDM2 is E3 ubiquitin ligase, and it takes the p53 to the ubiquitin proteasome system for proteasomal degradation. But when there is activation by the check1 and check2, there is phosphorylation of p53 and MDM2, and this MDM2 is removed from this, and the cell concentration of p53 is increased. Now it is no longer going to proteasome for degradation, and it prevents cell from entering the S phase of cell cycle and allow time for DNA repair. There is increased formation of cyclin dependent kinase inhibitors, and that will lead to inactivation of cyclin dependent kinase complexes. And this is the basic mechanism that is responsible for the cell cycle arrest at G1S checkpoint. Now the cell has stopped to divide, or the cell cycle progress is stopped. So it may lead to DNA repair or may go towards apoptosis. When there is synthesis of CIP1 and GAT45, that will lead to the binding of the proliferating cell nuclear antigen, and DNA will repair. While for apoptosis there should be activation of intrinsic pathway, and p53 serves as a transcription factor, and it increases the production of pro-apoptotic protein such as BAD, BEX, PUMA and others, and represses transcription of post-survival protein such as BCL2, BCLXL and MCL1. This p53 may directly activate cytosolic BEX, which in turn move into the mitochondria and triggers release of cytochrome C. As we have seen earlier, p53 may act as BH3 only protein, and pro-apoptotic BCL2 family members directly binding to MCL1, therefore free the BAC to release into the cytochrome C and other pro-apoptotic mitochondrial protein. So for the apoptosis, there should be activation of various caspases that will lead to the suicidal programming of the cell. There is another concept that is oncogene mediated apoptosis. This further complexes this issue.
This MYC transcription factor is responsible for cell proliferation, but it can also activate apoptosis. If MYC is deregulated, it is balanced by this characteristic of activation of cell suicidal program. As we have seen in cellular senescence video, it is a molecular safety valve and it blocks cancer development. Therefore, the cells that are producing high level of MYC protein must also overcome action of apoptotic protein and increase expression of pro-survival protein. So the evasion of apoptosis is another hallmark of cancer. The tumor suppressors are also responsible to push the cell toward the senescence state. When there is activation of the cell by oncogene and there is excessive cell division or there is oxidative stress, as a result, if there is DNA damage, it will activate DNA damage response, and this DNA damage response will then activate the p53 that push the cell into a senescence state. Similarly, this oncogenic activation also activate tumor suppressor p16 that activate RB, and this RB is responsible for formation of senescence associated heterochromatin formation that result in senescence. This DDR response or DNA damage response is also responsible for senescence associated secretory phenotype that is maintained by secretion of interleukin 6 and 8. This phenotype may also be activated by direct oncogene activation. There are many proteins that are involved in tumor suppressor activities such as ATM, ATR, CHEK1, CHEK2, and the regulators of cell cycle P53 and RB. There are many more tumor suppressors also. The P53 and RB are important one. The retinoblastoma gene or RB gene is the first tumor suppressor gene that was discovered. It was first discovered while studying familial retinoblastoma, hence named after it, though it is associated with other tumors also. This gene is located on long arm of chromosome 13, and this RB is a critical checkpoint in the cell cycle. As we have seen that it binds with E2 effector and keep it inactive with binding with it. However, it does not only bind with E2 effector, it has a tendency to bind with more than 100 proteins, and there are many binding sites in this protein. So when it becomes mutated, as happens in various germline mutation that occurs in 40% of the cases, and there are many other acquired mutations also, such as point mutation, insertion, deletion, translocations, or epigenetic variations such as promoter hypermethylation. It will result in unregulated cell proliferation, as now E2 effector will be freed and will lead as a transcriptional activator. This retinoblastoma is an uncommon tumor. The familial type of retinoblastoma is due to germline mutation that occurs in about 40% of the people, and retinoblastoma is bilateral if mutation is germline. It is transmitted as autosomal dominant disorder, and people having this trait are at 10,000-fold increased risk of the tumor. In addition to retinoblastoma, it is also associated with osteosarcoma and other tumors such as soft tissue tumors. The if individuals that are affected sporadically, that is about 60% of the cases, are not predisposed to bilateral tumor or other type of the tumor. This observation has laid the foundation of Knudsen two-hit. The Knudsen two-hit hypothesis, which was proposed by Alfred G. Knudsen in 1971, and this hypothesis states that two mutations or hit involving both alleles of RB are required to produce retinoblastoma. What happens in familial cases? The children inherit one defective copy of RB, that was the first hit, and a normal copy of RB in the germline. Retinoblastoma develops when the normal RB allele is mutated in the retinoblast as a result of a spontaneous somatic mutation. This is the second hit. So one hit was present and there is another mutation or second hit, and because second hit seems to be virtually inevitable in a small fraction of a retinoblast, most individuals inheriting a germline defect in one RB allele develop unilateral or bilateral retinoblastoma, and the disease is inherited as autosomal dominant trait. While in sporadic cases, both RB alleles must undergo somatic mutation in the same retinoblast, that is two hit, and the probability of event is low, as one require two hits. This frequency of this retinoblastoma is uncommon in general population, but the final outcome, that is the development of retinoblastoma or tumor, is same. In hereditary retinoblastoma, the child inherits one defective RB allele. So, this child is heterozygous for RB gene and no observable change is present in the retina. The 50% of RB gene product is sufficient to prevent retinoblastoma, and this 50% product was from normal gene. And when there is the second hit, one hit was present already and this is the second hit. Now randomly acquired deletion, mutation or other type of mutation will lead to inactivation of the normal RB allele, and the residual function of RB is lost. So there is no function of RB gene present now, and this will lead to development of tumor. The susceptibility to retinoblastoma is inherited in a dominant fashion, and the presence of one mutant RB tumor suppressor gene predisposed to eventual loss of heterozygosity and consequent development of malignancy. That is, a mutation in one allele, whether inherited or acquired, facilitate clonal expansion of cells bearing a mutation in other allele. The inherited RB mutation is associated with 200-fold increased risk of developing mesenchymal tumors in early adult life, and RB mutation in sporadic tumors are seen in osteosarcoma, that is 70% of the cases of osteosarcoma, and small cell lung cancer, carcinoma of the breast, bladder and pancreas. This picture is describing the Knudsen two-hit hypothesis. The RB gene is present on chromosome number 13, the long arm of the chromosome number 13, and the child is born with one mutation and one mutation in the RB, and that is the germline mutation. If there is a somatic mutation in the other allele, then it is going to produce retinoblastoma. While in sporadic cases, two hits on the alleles, two separate hits on the separate alleles are required for the development of tumor. This diagram is showing the pathogenesis of the retinoblastoma in both the sporadic as well as in the familial cases. In the sporadic cases, two hits are necessary for the development or onset of the retinoblastoma, and in the familial types there is presence of one germline mutation in almost all all somatic cells of the child, and the cellular behavior was otherwise normal, but the individual has an increased risk of developing cancer. If this is present, it is not going to change. One hit is not going to change the behavior of the cell. What happens after the second hit? The mutation of the other allele, if there is mutation in the other allele, that is going to produce the tumor. So it means that two hits are necessary for the development of tumor. Following the RB identification, many other tumor suppressors were also discovered, and the same principle, same hypothesis was applied for the development of this tumor. It was previously considered that tumor suppressor gene, they apply brake on cell cycle progression, hence they stop the cell cycle and DNA replication, but it is now clear that other mechanism of the tumor suppressor mechanisms are also there that prevent cellular transformation through other mechanism, such as by altering cell metabolism or by ensuring genomic stability. So the new definition for tumor suppressor gene is now it is a protein or gene that oppose any of the various hallmarks of the cancer. RB is also termed as governor of proliferation. It governs the proliferation as it acts near the G1 to S boundary. The prototype RB is P105RB or simply PRB. It keep itself bind with E2F family of transcription factor, hence inhibit progression of the self cycle. The activated cyclin D, E and CDK246, they phosphorylate RB and are responsible to inactivation or phosphorylation of the RB. Simultaneously they release E2F factors, and when these E2F transcription factors are liberated, the cell cycle progress because there is increased transcription of downstream cyclins such as A and E, as well as other proteins that promote DNA replication. The binding of the E2F by RB brings some conformational changes within the PRB, hence the E2F is released from it. So the activity or mutations that result in problems in this RB are loss of function mutations that involve both RBs or RB alleles, or gain of function mutation that upregulate cyclin dependent kinases or cyclin dependent cyclin D, especially cyclin D activity, and loss of function mutation that abrogate the activity of cyclin dependent kinase inhibitors. So this governor of the proliferation integrate many signals that control cell cycle progression. It regains its inhibitory activity as the cell cycle or cell division ends, and in anaphase a protein that is phosphatase PP1 dephosphorylate PRB and allow it to bind again with E2 effector, and hence the cell cycle is stopped. This picture is showing the mechanism of execution of governance by the governor of proliferation. When there is activation by the growth inhibitors such as transforming growth factor beta, P53 and other growth inhibitors, there is a stimulation of the cyclin dependent kinase inhibitors such as P16 that will inactivate the cyclin D and cyclin E as well as cyclin dependent kinases. That will bring the RB in hypophosphorylated state, and in this hypophosphorylated state, this RB along with E2 factor, E2F family of protein, it binds to the DNA and recruits histone deacetylase and histone methyltransferase, and after the recruitment of these histone or chromatin modifying factor, they inhibit transcription of the gene. So the S phase gene or S phase gene are not produced and there is transcriptional block. When growth factors are activated, such as epidermal growth factor and platelet derived growth factor, they activate cyclin dependent kinases 4, 6, cyclin D, cyclin E, and now due to activation by the cyclin dependent kinases and cyclins, the RB is now in hyperphosphorylated state, and this hyperphosphorylated state, the E2F is separated from this RB, and E2F now bind with this DNA, and it is responsible for the transcriptional activation. So S phase genes are produced. This checkpoint is defective as a result of mutation in any one of the gene that we have just seen. So there is mutation in the CDKN2A, RB, cyclin D protein, epidermal growth factor, PDGF, platelet derived growth factor, transforming growth factor, beta, and any of this protein that is involved in this pathway, that will result in cancer. As we have seen earlier, the germline and somatic loss of function RB mutations are seen in retinoblastoma and osteosarcoma, and also in various glioblastoma, lung, breast and bladder carcinoma. There is a frequent question that why do patients with germline RB mutation preferentially develop retinoblastoma instead of other cancer? The exact mechanism of this is not known, but the possible explanation is that there is presence of other RB family members that have the RB-like activities. These proteins may fulfill the role of RB in cell type other than the retinoblast, so it is not common in those cells. There is another question that why are acquired mutation of RB not found in all kind of cancer, and the answer to this is very simple, that the mutation in other genes that control RB phosphorylation can mimic the effect of RB loss, and such genes are mutated in many cancers that have normal RB gene. There are 4 key regulators of cell cycle. These are P16, cyclin D, cyclin dependent kinase 4 and RB, and one of these is dysregulated in many of the human tumors. The mutational activation of cyclin D and cyclin dependent kinases and mutational inactivation of cyclin dependent kinase inhibitors will lead to hyperphosphorylation and hence inactivation of RB, that will lead to proliferation of the cell. In cells that have mutation in any of these genes or in upstream factor that regulate their gene expression and function, all of these, they will show the functional inactivation of the RB, even if RB is not mutated. Some of the transforming protein of oncogenic animal and human DNA viruses. Also, they neutralize the growth inhibitory activities of RB, and examples of these are polyoma virus large T antigen and E7 protein of human papilloma virus, especially the strain 16 and 18, which are oncogenic strains. We have already discussed this mechanism of receptor ligand interaction, downstream signaling and cell cycle transition, activation and inactivation of the gene transcription and role of tumor suppression, and also studied the effect of the cyclin and hyperphosphorylation of the RB, and also have seen that P21 and P16 are responsible for the action of the cyclin on the RB. Also, the RB is responsible to block the cell cycle transit unless it is hyperphosphorylated and release the E2F transcription factor that is responsible for the cell division. RB can be dephosphorylated to restore its ability to inhibit E2F. The P53 protein, that is also termed as guardian of the genome, is present on short arm of chromosome 17, and the gene of this P53 protein is TP53 gene. This P53 is responsible for the regulation of cell cycle progression, DNA repair, cellular senescence and apoptosis. When this is mutated, which is commonly seen as missense mutation, and this mutation is most common genetic change in human cancer, which is present more than half of all of the cancers, and this mutation or deletion of this TP53 gene is seen in more than 75% of colorectal cancer and other cancers such as carcinoma of breast, lung, especially small cell variety, liver and astrocytomas of the brain. The mutation in the P53 will result in inability of this protein to bind to DNA, and as it stops the cell cycle progression when there is DNA damage, but it is now mutated, so it will allow progression of the cell cycle despite having damaged DNA. The DNA is damaged, but cell cycle will progress because P53 is now not checking the progress. Unlike RB, one mutant gene is sufficient to produce this tumor. Because the active form of P53 is homotetramer, all 4 units should be functional to achieve effects of P53. But if there is a mutant allele, it can inactivate whole tetramer. When a protein product of a mutant allele inactivate product of wild type allele, the mutant is termed as dominant negative. It is dominant, but the effect is negative. So it is dominant negative. Commonly, mutation affect both allele, and these mutations are acquired, and less commonly individuals inherit one mutated TP53 allele that is termed as Li-Fraumeni syndrome, and this syndrome predisposes individuals to malignant tumors. There is 25-fold chance of developing a malignant tumor by the age of 50 years, and in contrast to the retinoblastoma, the spectrum in this Li-Fraumeni syndrome of the tumor is broad. The most common types are sarcomas, breast cancers, leukemias, brain tumors and carcinomas of the adrenal cortex, and the individuals with Li-Fraumeni syndrome often develop cancer at younger age, and are more likely to suffer from multiple primary tumor of varying type. So P53 is regulated by TP53 gene, and this P53 has a critical role in prevention of cancer development. It sends various type of cellular stresses such as DNA damage, shortened telomeres, hypoxia, and excessive signaling of the proliferative stress, as happens in RAS and MYC mutation. This P53 is regulated by MDM2, that is mouse double minute 2 homolog. It is a ubiquitin E3 ligase and it stimulates P53 degradation by engaging it through the proteasomal degradation system. This MDM2 is overexpressed in tumor with normal P53 allele, as happens in more than 33% of the sarcomas, and it results in functional deficiency of P53. Another way of the inactivation of P53 is through viruses. An example of this is E6 protein of HPV virus, that is the cause of epithelial malignancies of the cervix and oral cavity. A here is showing a location and frequency of mutation in different P53 regions. There are multiple domains of P53 protein. The frequent site of mutation is DNA binding domain, which is the largest domain. B is showing the P53 with DNA binding, and this binding occurs like a knitting frame. It is a homotetramer which is composed of two dimers, and each dimer is product of one allele of TP53. C is showing that if there is one mutation or one allele is mutated of TP53 and one is of wild type, there are four possible combinations, and only 25% of or 1/4 of these combination will show that the P53 will result in TP53 will result in functional P53 formation. The rest of the 75% transcription is non-functional. We have already seen in the video of the cellular proliferation that the P53 stays in this cell with the MDM2, that is mouse double minute 2 homolog, and hence it is inactive and non-detectable in the normal non-stressed cell. When there is stress on this cell, either due to DNA damage or due to stalled DNA replication or hypoxia, it is sensed by two different type of protein kinases. One is ATM, that is ataxia telangiectasia mutated, which was seen in ataxia telangiectasia tumor, hence named after it, and another one is ATR. And when these protein kinase phosphorylate the P53 MDM2 complex, it will result in separation of both of them, and MDM2 is phosphorylated and P53 is again phosphorylated separately. P53 will then lead to the activation of P21, while MDM2 which was destined to take this p53 to the proteasome system is now phosphorylated separately. This MDM2 is also blocked by p14. Now, how this p53 is associated with oncogenic stress? The mechanism for this is, for example, when RAS is affecting its activation, there is activation of MAP kinase and phosphatidylinositol 3 kinase, and AKT cascade is activation, and this will lead to the increased expression of P14 that is encoded by CDKN2A tumor suppressor gene. This has characteristic to bind with MDM2, and P14 MDM2 binding together will displace it from the combination of P53 MDM2. Hence now P53 is free and its concentration rises within the cell. P53 is a transcription factor. When there is increased concentration of this protein inside the cell, it binds with the DNA, and this binding is in a sequence specific fashion that will activate the transcription of many genes, and this transcription of the gene such as cell cycle arrest, gene that cause apoptosis, or genes that enhance catabolic metabolism or inhibit anabolic metabolism will do their respective function successfully. There will be transient cell cycle arrest, programmed cell death, that is apoptosis, and senescence, that is permanent cell cycle arrest. The stress on this cell will lead to accumulation of P53, and there is activation of transcription of target gene that will result in outcome. One of the outcome that we have just seen, one of the outcome is transient P53 induced cell cycle arrest. When there is stress and increased P53, this response is considered a rapid onset and primordial response that occur in late G1 phase. There is transcription of CDKN1A gene that will encode P21. This is inhibitor of cyclin dependent kinase 4 and D cyclin complexes. So this P21 will maintain RB in an active hypophosphorylated state. So the E2 effector is an active state, it is bound with RB, and progression from G1 to S is inhibited. So during the stress, cell has got a breathing time to repair DNA damage. Simultaneously, P53 also release GAT45 protein for transcription, and that will result in DNA repair. Once this DNA is repaired, the P53 concentration goes down and cell now can progress to the S phase. P53 induced senescence is another outcome of accumulation of P53, and senescence is a state of permanent cell cycle arrest characterized by specific changes in morphology and gene expression that differentiate it from reversible cell cycle arrest. We had an earlier video on this topic, the senescence. When there is stress by any of these stimulus, there is increased concentration of P53 that will lead to the epigenetic changes, and these epigenetic changes will result in formation of senescence associated heterochromatin, and this occur at genetic loci that are required for progression of cell from G1 to S phase. So cell is not going to S phase now, and this occur in response to unopposed oncogene signaling, hypoxia, or shortened telomeres. Another outcome of p53 accumulation is p53 induced apoptosis that result in accumulation of or activation of transcription of pro-apoptotic genes such as BEX and PUMA, and this will induce cell death via intrinsic or mitochondrial pathway. This flow diagram is showing the mechanism of action of guardian of genome, how it regulates the activity of the genome or control the integrity of the genome. The normal cell in which the p53 is normal if it has got DNA damage by oncogenic or hypoxic stress. There is accumulation of p53 in the cell and it binds to DNA. There will be transcriptional dependent and independent effects on the target. It may lead to development of senescence, or there will be activation of p21, that is CDK inhibitor, and it will result in arrest of cell cycle in G1 phase, and there will be a successful repair through GAT45, which is responsible for DNA repair. If repair fails, the BEX and PUMA, that are pro-apoptotic genes or proteins, that will result in apoptosis of the cell. So the three outcomes: the transient arrest of the cell cycle, the permanent arrest of the cell cycle, that is senescence, and third outcome is the induction of apoptosis. In the malignant cell, or in the cell with mutation of loss of p53, there will be damage to the DNA and it will result in non-activation of p53, as there is a mutated gene, so p53 dependent genes are non-activated, and there is no cell cycle arrest, neither there is DNA repair or senescence. So the cell is a mutant cell. With expansion and additional mutations, it will become a malignant tumor. The p53 is normally present in bound state with MDM2 or mouse double minute 2. It is an E3 ubiquitin ligase, and it is blocked by p14 alternate reading frame or p14 ARF. Any oncogene such as RAS and MEK, they upregulate this p14 ARF, that is a tumor suppressor protein, and it will lead to phosphorylation of the RB. In some tumors, there is overexpression of this MDM2, and this overexpression of the MDM2 in the presence of normal TP53 allele, it will result in increased p53 degradation that will result in tumor formation. In some conditions, p14 ARF is not expressed, so blocking of MDM2 is ineffective, so allow unopposed proteolysis of p53. The neutralization of p53 also occurs through some DNA viral product, as happens in HPV E6 case. The E6 protein of human papilloma virus binds to p53 and promotes its degradation. In addition to these numerous feedback loops, there are post-translational modification, phosphorylation, acetylation, natural antisense transcript, binding protein and small regulatory RNA present. So the functions of p53 are cell cycle arrest, apoptosis, cellular sense, and in addition to these, the functions are response to metabolic stress, regulation of autophagy, production of reactive oxygen species, and promotion and limitation of longevity. So what determines outcome is not known precisely, but duration and level of p53 activation are important in the determination of the outcome. The p53 it has got more affinity for the promoter and enhancers of DNA repair. So first cell goes towards the repair of the DNA pathway, and if this stress or stimulus is chronic, or there is sustained accumulation of the disturbing stimulus, the pro-apoptotic genes are activated and result in the apoptosis. If this is accompanied by RAS or other mutation, there is epigenetic silencing of genes of cell cycle progression that push the cell towards senescence. If there is loss of activity of p53, that will result in unrepaired DNA damage, and this unrepaired DNA damage will progress the cell cycle, and progress of the cell cycle will result in accumulation of driver as well as passenger mutations, and subsequently there will be malignant transformation. The irradiation and chemotherapy are important therapeutic modalities which are responsible for the apoptosis, and they also cause DNA damage, and that results in apoptosis. The p53 having this wild type allele p53 mutation is well respond to the modalities irradiation and chemotherapy, such as in testicular germ cell tumor and acute lymphoblastic leukemia, but the tumors that have got mutated allele of p53, they do not respond to these treatment modalities, such as the lung cancer and colorectal carcinoma. Another problem in this p53 oncogenesis is acquisition of mutator phenotype. There is a tendency to acquire mutation rapidly, and it occurs in advanced stage, and the mutator phenotypes are also resistant to therapeutic modalities. There are some other members of p53 family, and these are p63 and p73 as well as some other derivative proteins. p63 is encoded by chromosome 3, while p73 is encoded by chromosome 1, and when these are intact, they compensate for the loss of p53 partly, and both of these, the p63 and p73, are tumor suppressors, and their function partly overlap, and they are distinct from those of the p53 function. p63 is a transcriptional regulator, and it directly increases level of pro-apoptotic protein CD95 and BEX, and its presence is important for effective chemotherapy using agents like cisplatinum. There are many variants of each of these proteins present. The treacherous mutant p53 will inactivate tumor suppressor function, and the treacherous mutant p53 also function as an oncogene because it modulates gene transcription, it protects cell from apoptosis, it activates pro-inflammatory cytokines and also activates extracellular matrix modulators, blocks ATM-mediated protection against the double-stranded DNA breaks. There is widespread stimulation of genes that are involved with cellular proliferation, and it also activates cellular mechanisms that are responsible for resistance to chemotherapeutic drugs, such as mutant p53 associated with poor prognosis, which is seen in tumors of hematopoietic system, breast, urinary bladder, and head and neck tumors. There is presence of some splice variant of p53 and p73, and particularly some variants lack the N-terminal domain that appear to inhibit aspect of their tumor suppressor activity and to act in part as oncogenes. Now, fragile site translocation. The common fragile sites or weak links are specific chromosomal regions that preferentially form gaps or break on metaphase chromosomes under replication stress. So these chromosomal areas are structurally unstable, and less than 5% of the population also possess rare fragile sites that are prone to the same fragility. Gene amplification, chromosomal translocation, sister chromatid exchanges, deletion and other type of chromosomal malfunction occur often at these sites. This instability is involved in tumor development via loss of tumor suppressor gene integrity. The FRA3b is the most active common fragile site that is associated with many human malignancies, including solid tumors as well as leukemias. The fragile histidine triad or F-hit tumor suppressors is the gene that is often inactivated or deleted in this setting. This gene encodes a protein that cleaves certain nucleotides into AMP and ADP. The mechanism of function is not clear, but this F-hit protein does not bind with DNA. It enhances microtubule assembly like adenomatous polyposis coli gene. It also promotes apoptosis via caspase 8 activation, and if it is mutated or deleted, it will result in enhanced resistance to apoptosis, and FRA3b alterations are particularly common in environmental carcinogenesis. There are other important fragile sites also. One is the WOX. This is located at FRA16D, and it is important in growth regulation and some form of apoptosis. This is decreased in most human malignancies. The Parkin is another fragile site, and this is a ubiquitin ligase that is important in autophagy and often lost in certain solid tumors. Caveolin is one of the two tumor suppressors that are located at FRA7G site, and the other tumor suppressor that is present at this site is testin. It regulates several cellular functions including signal transduction, and it is lost in various human cancers, both the solid and hematopoietic tumors. The adenomatous polyposis coli (APC) is also termed as gatekeeper of colonic neoplasia. This belongs to tumor suppressors that function by down-regulating growth-promoting signaling pathway. So this APC gene is located on long arm of chromosome number 5, and it encodes
APC, that is the component of Wnt signaling pathway, and it plays a role in controlling cellular growth and differentiation during embryonic development. The germline mutation in this gene is associated with familial adenomatous polyposis, that is an autosomal dominant disorder, and when there is one inherited mutant allele, that will lead to both mutated allele, as we have seen in two hit theories earlier. Then this both muted alleles will result in clonic adenomatous polyp formation in very early age. The patient is usually in his teens or 20s. When several additional mutations are acquired, it may undergo into malignant transformation. The acquired mutations are seen in 70 to 80% of non-familial colorectal carcinoma and sporadic adenomas, and it is not limited only to the colonic mucosa. 20% of the tumor from the liver, the hepatocellular carcinoma, also show this APC mutation. The function of this APC is to hold back or watch the activity of this beta-catenin. The APC form a destructive complex with this beta-catenin and leads to its proteasomal degradation. When this APC is not functioning properly, this beta-catenin translocates into the nucleus, where it forms a transcription complex with the DNA binding factor that is termed as TCF. This then increase the expression of MYC, cyclin D and other genes and responsible for proliferation. This illustration is summarizing the role of adenomatous polyposis coli in regulating the stability and function of beta-catenin. In resting state of this cell, when there is no Wnt signaling through Wnt receptor, that is the receptor of frizzled family of receptors, there is degradation of the beta-catenin by binding with APC that forms a destruction complex with the beta-catenin and causes its proteasomal destruction. So it results in no proliferation. When there is Wnt stimulation, there is signaling and it activates various pathways. One of these pathways is the APC beta-catenin pathway. In this, the APC is separated from this destruction complex and beta-catenin is now free to move or translocate inside the nucleus, where it binds with the transcription factor, that is TCF, and it makes a transcription complex within the nucleus, binds with the DNA and causes the activation of MYC, cyclin D1 and other gene that will result in proliferation. In tumor cells, as the APC is non-functional, there is no signaling, but there is no destruction through this APC, no proteasomal destruction through of beta-catenin through this APC, and beta-catenin is free to translocate into the nucleus and form the TCF beta-catenin transcription complex that will result in proliferation of the cell. So now this tumor cell without mutated APC behaves like it is under continuous stimulation by Wnt, as the APC is not present. Same is the case when beta-catenin gets mutated, it get itself free from the function of the APC and constitutively activate the TCF or other signaling other proliferative genes.
E-cadherin is encoded by CDH1 gene that is present on long arm of chromosome 16. E-cadherin is a cell surface protein that maintains intercellular adhesiveness, and beta-catenin it binds to the cytoplasmic tail of E-cadherin. If there is any injury that will lead to loss of E-cadherin and beta-catenin interaction, that will result in beta-catenin translocation to the nucleus. Its translocation will switch on the proliferative genes, and that will help in repair. The phenomenon of the contact reestablishment is that when the beta-catenin is sequestered at the membrane, that will decrease the proliferative signaling, hence it inhibits by contact. So this is the contact inhibition phenomenon that is lost in the mutation of the CDH1 gene that contribute to the malignant phenotype, and also this malignant phenotype will result in invasion, local, and metastasis. This is seen in cancers of the esophagus, colon, breast, ovary, and prostate. The germline mutations of the CDH1 gene are seen in familial gastric carcinoma. CDKN2A gene encodes two proteins. One is the P16 and another is P14 alternate reading frame. The P16 is a cyclin-dependent kinase inhibitor, and it blocks CDK4 cyclin D complex mediated phosphorylation of Rb. Hence, it reinforced the G1 to S checkpoint. It is also important in the induction of cellular senescence. P14 ARF activates the P53 pathway by inhibiting mouse double minute 2 and prevent destruction of P53. This gene is mutated, and germline mutations are associated or seen in familial forms of melanoma, while sporadic mutations are associated with bladder cancer, head and neck tumors, acute lymphoblastic leukemia, and cholangiocarcinoma. Transforming growth factor beta is a potent inhibitor of proliferation in epithelial, endothelial, and hematopoietic cells. There is a binding of this transforming growth factor with its receptor that will stimulate intercellular signals that involve transcriptional regulators of the SMAD protein family, and it will result in anti-proliferative gene switch on, and it also switches off the cell growth genes such as MEK, cyclin, and CDK genes. That will result in decreased Rb phosphorylation and the arrest of the cell cycle. The TGF beta receptors mutation are seen as loss of function mutation, and it is associated with CA colon, stomach, and endometrium. The SMAD mutations are associated with CA pancreas, while the CDKI genes and the cell growth genes mutation is double-edged sword for the development of cancer. Once, on the one hand, it is decreasing the anti-proliferative effect, and on the other hand, it is increasing the growth genes.
For some important tumor suppressors, the critical parameter is the level of tumor suppressor activity and the presence or absence of mutation that determines the level of the protein. One of the examples of this type of tumor suppressor is PTEN, that is phosphatase and tensin homologue, that is present on chromosome 10.
The PTEN gene encodes membrane-associated phosphatase that are tumor suppressors, and they apply brake on phosphatidylinositol 3 kinase and serine threonine kinase signaling cascade. This PTEN gene is present on long arm of chromosome 10, and it can be mutated by deletion, point mutation, or epigenetic silencing. It is present. This mutation is present in Cowden syndrome, and this Cowden syndrome is an autosomal dominant disorder which is characterized by frequent benign growth such as a skin appendage tumor and increased incidence of epithelial cancers such as breast, endometrium, and thyroid.
As we have seen in earlier videos, the receptor ligand binding will result in intracellular signaling that will activate multiple pathways, and one of this is the activation of phosphatidylinositol 3 kinase that convert or phosphorylate the phosphatidylinositol 4,5 bisphosphate into phosphatidylinositol 3,4,5 triphosphate or PIP3. That will further lead to activation of AKT and mTOR pathway, and this then will lead to the division of the cell. There is a protein that dephosphorylates this PIP3 or phosphatidylinositol 3,4,5 triphosphate, and this dephosphorylation deactivates the cellular division or proliferative pathway. This PTEN is phosphatase and tensin homologue, and it is second only in the frequency of the tumor suppressor function loss.
PTEN is a phosphatase that dephosphorylates both protein and lipids. It regulates many signals from cell surface down to the nuclear transcription factors. One important function of the PTEN is to dephosphorylate the highly active signaling intermediate PIP3 to PIP2 that inhibits the AKT-mTOR pathway. PTEN and P53 are physically interact each another and regulate each other. The P10 may be necessary for P53 to be functional and protect P53 from MDM2 mediated degradation. Other PTEN protein function are DNA damage repair response, apoptosis, regulation of cell cycle progression, maintenance of epithelial polarity, and inhibition of epithelial to mesenchymal transition. It regulates cell metabolism to limit glycolysis also. PTEN is a protein that is maintained at a steady high concentration within the cell. Any change that occur in the concentration of the PTEN, such as inactivation of one or both allele, altered promoter activity, epigenetic changes, or post-translation changes, there will be decrease in the PTEN concentration that will now lead to increase concentration of the PIP3. So PTEN regulation and modulation of the activity of the cell kinase activity is now lost, and there is increased signaling pathway, and it will lead to increased cellular proliferation and survival. This picture is summarizing the effect of decrease in PTEN. When there is decrease by deletion, mutation, epigenetic modification, the decrease in PTEN will lead to the weak dephosphorylation of PIP3, and there will be increased accumulation of the PIP3 within the cell that will lead to increased AKT signaling, and increased AKT signaling will result in increased cell cycle progression, increased formation of reactive oxygen species, decreased apoptosis, and increased cell survival through mTOR pathway. So all these lead to development of uncontrolled cell proliferation. The PTEN tumor suppressor is the second most common mutated gene in human cancers. It is tightly regulated, so if there is a small decrease in the activity of PTEN, that will allow some proliferative activity to develop, and there are many mechanisms that lead to the abrogation of its function, and these are regulation of transcript, microRNA, pseudogene transcript as decoys, and protein modification. One of the mechanisms that is responsible for alteration in the PTEN level and function is regulation of transcription. Several epigenetic mechanisms such as altered histone structure and promoter DNA methylation are known to decrease the level of transcription of PTEN gene. Similarly, concentration of protein that increases or decreases promoter activity are also important for the regulation in the transcription. The microRNA bind mainly to the three end of untranslated region of PTEN transcript and may cause that messenger RNA to be degraded and prevent its translation. Other mechanism of alteration in PTEN level and function is through pseudogene transcript as decoys. There is a gene that is P10P1 gene, and it does not code for any protein. It in fact produces an untranslated messenger RNA that resemble with P10 messenger RNA. This belongs to a class of RNA that is termed as competitive endogenous RNAs. The P10 gene encodes P10 mRNA, while the product of P10P1 is untranslated competitive endogenous P10P1 RNA. So the microRNA for which was destined to bind with P10 mRNA is now bind with the P10P1 competitively endogenous RNA because it has got more affinity for this. The significance of this decoy to tumor suppression is that the P10P1 gene is commonly lost in some human cancers that will lead to decreased P10 protein level in these tumors. The protein modification is also responsible for alteration in P10 level and its function. By post-translational modifications such as acetylation and oxidation, the P10 protein is converted into inactive P10 protein, and this is targeted for degradation by polyubiquitination, or it is directed to subcellular site where its activity is particularly needed through monoubiquitination. There is another modification that is reverse inactivating modification such as SERT1 deacetylates P10. P10 level is strictly regulated in the cell, and only 20% of decrease in its concentration will result in tumor formation. Some tissue are particularly more susceptible to oncogenesis, such as hematopoietic or endometrial tissue as compared to prostate. These observations emphasized that the tumor suppressor effect of P10 is lost even in the absence of its mutation, and the tissue diversity in response to oncogenic stimulus. Same is true for BRCA1 and BRCA2 tumor suppressor gene that are important in the development of breast cancer, where one mutant and other normal allele does not require loss of heterozygosity for proliferation to start. This picture is showing the regulation of levels of PTEN expression and its activity. The PTEN is a regulator of many cell activities and it has got diverse function. So it is strictly regulated at various levels and face many mutinies during its journey, starting before DNA transcription to execution of its function. At the promoter level, there is promoter methylation and histone deacetylation that blocks its transcription, while histone deacetylation encourage its transcription. There are some defined upregulator and downregulators also. The upregulators are EGR1, P53 and CBP, and the downregulators are nuclear factor kappa B, SNEL1 and CGen. Then the PTEN messenger RNA is formed that can be blocked by P10P1 gene, and the translation is blocked by involvement of multiple microRNA, including microRNA 21 and 17 to 92. Then P10 protein is formed, and this protein can be inhibited by phosphorylation, ubiquitination and oxidation. The diverse protein to protein interaction may result in inactivation or activation or reverse inactivation of this P10 protein. When it is stabilized, it executes function. The von Hippel-Lindau gene is present on short arm of chromosome number 3, and it encodes VHL or von Hippel-Lindau protein, that is a component of a protein complex VCB-Cul2. It covalently links ubiquitin chain to the specific protein substrate, thereby promoting their degradation through the proteasome. One important substrate for this von Hippel-Lindau protein is hypoxia-inducible factor 1 alpha, that is hydroxylated in the presence of oxygen, and it's ubiquitinated and degraded by this proteasome system. When there is mutation in this von Hippel-Lindau gene, there is increased concentration of hypoxia-inducible factor alpha within the nucleus, even in the presence of oxygen, or this hypoxia-inducible factor is also increased in the absence of oxygen normally, or in hypoxic condition. So this increased concentration of the hypoxia-inducible factor will switch on target genes such as vascular endothelial growth factor, that is a potent angiogenesis factor. It also switch on genes for platelet derived growth factor, that is a mitogen, and also activate GLUT1, that is a glucose transporter, and several other glycolytic enzymes that are going to change the metabolism of the cell. The germline loss of the function mutation of this VHL gene is associated with hereditary renal cell carcinoma and several other tumors and proliferation, while somatic mutation result in sporadic renal cell carcinoma. Now we see the same concept with another view. The von Hippel-Lindau, that is a part of ubiquitin ligase, it is associated with degradation of hypoxia-inducible factor, and it degrades this hypoxia-inducible factor through proteasomes. And this hypoxia-inducible factor is a transcription factor, and if this VHL gene is defected, it is not going to take it to the proteasome. So the hypoxia-inducible factor alpha 1 is increased, and increased concentration of this transcription factor within the nucleus activate transcription of genes that are important in cellular responses to decrease oxygen concentration. So this will increase cellular intake of glucose for anaerobic glycolysis, stimulate angiogenesis through vascular endothelial growth factor, and activate several critical growth factors. The same picture is seen in the core of many tumors, and if there is not presence of any VHL mutation, so this is due to impairment of cofactors for ubiquitination reaction. So this hypoxia-inducible factor degradation is impaired because the cofactor for ubiquitination are not present. The VHL tumor suppressor activities are: it promote apoptosis, it increase cellular immobilization by adherence to matrix protein, and it repress certain cell activation responses. The Notch is a family of endothelial receptors that is the stimulator of embryonic blood vessel development, and the vascular endothelial growth factor stimulation affects a negative feedback on DLL4, that are cell surface mount ligand for Notch. This Notch family will function as tumor angiogenesis inhibitor. STK11 gene or LKB1 is the gene that is present on short arm of the chromosome 19, and it encodes serine threonine kinase. Serine threonine kinase is important regulator of cellular metabolism, which has got pleiotropic effect. That means it influences multiple traits. It increases glucose uptake. It is involved in gluconeogenesis. It is involved in protein synthesis, mitochondrial biogenesis, and also involved in lipid metabolism. When there is germline loss of function mutation of this gene, it will result in Peutz-Jeghers syndrome, that is an autosomal dominant disorder, and is characterized by presence of benign GIT polyps, increased risk of multiple epithelial cancers such as JIT carcinoma and CA pancreas. The sporadic loss of function mutations are associated in many carcinomas because of altered cell metabolism in the establishment and maintenance of the transformed state. Now the effects of alternate or aberrant form of tumor suppressors. One gene may encode many proteins, and these proteins are different in their size. The sequence of amino acid is also different, and they perform diverse function. This is achieved by alternate splicing and multiple promoter. About 90% of the human gene with multiple exons are known to be spliced in multiple ways. The one is showing the classical gene organization with the presence of exon and introns. So what happens during splicing arrangement? The introns are removed, and the donor site at the 3 end of one exon is linked to the splice acceptor site at the 5 end of the following exon. So hence this diversity and multiplicity of these proteins is achieved. As we have seen in these pictures, there are two characteristically important aspects of alternative splicing. This schema of the gene is exhibiting that there are exons and there are introns. The exons give rise to the messenger RNA, spliced messenger RNA, while introns are not going to produce any protein. Then by this combination of various exons, the different protein is produced. If the transcription starts from another promoter site, this another promoter site is termed as P2. It may yield a protein homologous to the classical protein, but it is truncated at its amino terminus, and such protein is designated as delta N. This picture is describing the alternate splicing effect, a gene product and their activities. This is classical schema of the gene, which is showing the exon and intron and their arrangement, and the splicing arrangement is responsible for formation of messenger RNA, and this messenger RNA is alternatively spliced if one exon is missed. This yellow is missed in this picture, and one of the mechanism of alternative splicing. The other one, in which a different type of protein is present by the same gene, is the use of alternative promoter, or this alternative promoter is forming a truncated protein that is lacking some part of the normal protein at the amino terminus. One example of alternative splicing and tumor suppression is ARF-INK4 locus. The same locus encodes for 3 protein. It is short arm of the chromosome number 9 that encodes P14, P15 and P16. All of them have got same genetic locus, but they are different in their characteristic, but all 3 are tumor suppressors. There are many minor tumor suppressors also that are encoded in these regions. So the P14 and P16, they share the exons, while the ARF means alternative reading frame. The P16 and 15 are linked with the RB, retinoblastoma protein, and the P14 is linked with the MDM2 and P53. Their loss is common in cancer, and deregulation of RB related cell cycle control and excessive inhibition of P53 are associated with these. This locus encodes 3 tumor suppressors, but it can be repressed by a single repressor site, that is RD-INK-ARF, and when there is increased CDC6 within this site, that binds with the promoter, and it recruits histone deacetylases to the entire gene complex and inhibit transcription of all 3 tumor suppressors. There are additional mechanisms for the tumor suppression at this locus present, and these are through long non-coding RNAs. Andril is a long non-coding RNA that suppresses expression of P15-INK4B and is particularly important in leukemias and prostate cancer. Example of alternative splicing and relation with tumor suppression is P53 and its family. There are multiple transcripts identified for P53, P63 and P73. They have got diverse or even antagonistic function. They are shortened transcripts that are generated by alternative splicing and or different internal promoters. So the resultant are truncated P53, truncated P63 and truncated P73. There are many recognizable splice variant also that are designated alpha, beta and so on. They oligomerize with full length protein and form transcriptionally inactive tetramers. So they may bind to promoter that is normally activated by full length protein, such as they bind with pro-apoptotic protein BAX or PUMA, and hence they block access. The ratio of full length protein and truncated variant is also strictly monitored, because increased level of truncated P53 is seen in many tumors, and the increased truncated P63 is associated with poor response to anti-DNA chemotherapies that will lead to a poor prognosis. So the availability of alternate scripts and resulting variants of different protein encoded by same locus represent an important mean by which cancers can evade tumor suppression mechanisms. So the family members of P53 produce the truncated counterparts, and these truncated counterparts are responsible for the loss of tumor suppressions of this family, and because they dysregulate the function that is normally attributed to this family, that is apoptosis, senescence, and cell cycle arrest. Inherited cancer syndrome accounts for about 1% of the cancers. These tumors mainly involve tumor suppressors and DNA repair genes. They can be divided into three types. Number one, the inherited malignant tumors such as RB Wilms tumor and many endocrine tumors. Number two, the inherited tumors that remain benign or have a malignant potential. These are APCs or adenomatous polyposis coli. And third is inherited syndrome associated with a high risk of malignant tumors, and these are Bloom syndrome and ataxia, telangiectasia, etc. Phacomatoses is another group of disorders that is unclassifiable, and these disorders have got the characteristic of having both the developmental and neoplastic feature. The examples are tuberous sclerosis and neurofibromatosis. As it has been highlighted in the start of this video that diverse mechanisms are responsible in compromising the effectiveness of the tumor suppressor. These mechanisms are loss of heterozygosity, spontaneous mutation, dominant negative mutations, fragile site translocation, altered level or activities of tumor suppressor protein, functional blockade by other related proteins, and epigenetic changes that alter tumor suppressor expression or function. This table is showing the gene, the protein that is encoded by this gene, its function and familial syndrome, and the sporadic cancers that are associated with the mutation of this gene. And the group is inhibitor of mitogenic signaling pathways. This table is summarizing the same attributes under the head of inhibitors of cell cycle progression, inhibitors of pro-growth program of metabolism and angiogenesis, and inhibitors of invasion and metastasis. The same attributes are summarized in this table. These are summarizing the enablers of genomic stability, DNA repair factor, and unknown mechanisms. This table is an attempt to segregate the syndromes, the gene associated with this, the predominant malignancy and the function of the gene with the mode of inheritance. And the groups are chromosomal instability syndrome, which include Bloom syndrome and Fanconi anemia, the hereditary skin cancer, which include familial melanoma and xeroderma pigmentosum, the endocrine system that includes hereditary paraganglioma and pheochromocytoma, multiple endocrine neoplasia men type 1 and multiple endocrine neoplasia men type 2. Then breast cancer that include breast ovary cancer syndrome, site specific breast cancer, and breast cancer. Hereditary conditions associated with an increased risk of cancer in nervous system are retinoblastoma. The phacomatoses group include neurofibromatosis type 1 and neurofibromatosis type 2 and tuberous sclerosis. The gastrointestinal system includes
familial adenomatous polyposis, hereditary non-polyposis colorectal carcinoma, juvenile polyposis coli, and Peutz-Jeghers syndrome. The kidney includes hereditary papillary renal cell carcinoma, Wilms tumor, and von Hippel-Lindau. Then there are some hereditary conditions that are associated with an increased risk of cancer, and they affect multiple sites such as in Carnage complex, Cowden syndrome, Li-Fraumeni syndrome, Werner syndrome, and ataxia telangiectasia.